So, unless you've been under a rock, I think most of us are aware of the wars in both Ukraine and Israel. For me, as these stories have played out on the world stage, they have both taken many turns, some expected and some unexpected if I'm being honest. You hear some Americans saying save Israel or save Ukraine, then you hear some Americans saying save Palestine or we support Russia. We also hear Americans saying it doesn't matter how it started or who's responsible for the wars, please stop the violence. There are innocent people being extinguished. In my opinion, I do believe multiple things can be true at once. However, this is not the YouTube channel nor the forum to discuss who is right or who is wrong. What piqued my interest about these stories was the sheer veracity in which it appears the American government, at all levels, are championing the need for staggering amounts of foreign aid, also known as taxpayer money. So, of course, my mind instantly went to who plans to benefit the most from all this money. Unfortunately, one thing I've learned about the government here in America is that politicians are not typically this vociferous about anything unless it will benefit their benefactors, also known as their donors. So, as Americans, where do you start to answer questions such as, where is all this aid going? What has the $113 billion in assistance to Ukraine paid for? If approved, what would the proposed $106 billion in aid to Israel pay for? Yes, some of it is going to humanitarian efforts, but I know it does not take hundreds of billions of dollars to pay for rice, bread, water, and hospital supplies. They can't possibly spend all that money on rebuilding. I believe this is the conversation that's being overshadowed on purpose from the American people. So, again, I ask, where in the hell is all this American taxpayer money going? Before we even start this conversation, you all should know that America already gives Israel $3.8 billion in military aid each year regularly. So I do find it questionable that Israel needs $106 billion to fight Hamas on a 20-mile strip of land. However, to be fair, since no aid has been approved for Israel as of yet, we can only use the Ukraine war to track the money. But it is safe to say the same pattern of spending will be followed by Israel once the aid is approved. From the onset of my research for this topic, a recent interview kept echoing in my head about this specific question. Take a look.
If you look at the Ukraine assistance, let's talk about where the money's really going. A significant portion of it's being spent in the United States in 38 different states, replacing the weapons that we sent to Ukraine with more modern weapons. So we're rebuilding our industrial base.
That's what President Biden's seeking to do.
It's correct. No Americans are getting killed in Ukraine. We're rebuilding our industrial base. The Ukrainians are destroying the army of one of our biggest rivals. I have a hard time finding anything wrong with that. I think it's wonderful that they're defending themselves. And also the notion that the Europeans are not doing enough. They've done almost $90 billion. They're housing a bunch of refugees who escaped. I think that our NATO allies in Europe have done quite a lot.
Yes, you heard him correctly. According to the Republican leader Mitch McConnell, a significant portion of this money is being spent in 38 of 50 states here in America. So, end of story. As you can see, American politicians love us, and every bill they pass is all about putting Americans first. I hope I wasn't too sarcastic. Anyway, Mitch asserts the money is being spent on replacing older weapons and ammunition sent to Ukraine. So the way this works, as the US government sends weapons and ammunition to Ukraine from the US stockpile, the US government uses the money from the aid package to replace the depleting stockpile sent to Ukraine. These orders for new replacement weapons and ammunition is fulfilled and ordered from defense contractors here in America. According to reports of the $113 billion approved in 2022, about 3/5, or $67 billion, has been allocated towards defense needs, and the remaining 2/5, or $46 billion, to non-defense concerns such as general Ukrainian government aid, economic support, and aid for refugee resettlement. Okay, good, the money is being spent in the US, but the next question is that money reaching the bank accounts of the people of these states? According to NBC News, billions of dollars being spent by the federal government to arm Ukraine has been slow to translate into a significant number of new jobs in the US. The article went on to say, weapons manufacturers and Defense Department officials declined to say how many workers have been hired to help meet the increased demand. But comments by company executives and corporate filings indicate that the number of jobs has been relatively small compared to the overall size of the industry, despite the flood of federal dollars. Some companies have stated the reason for the shortfall is due to the restart of manufacturing weapons they haven't made in years, requiring them to rehire workers and reassemble manufacturing lines. Others said they have struggled to find workers, particularly those who are able to get security clearances or willing to move to more remote areas where weapons production typically takes place. I think all of these are real stopgaps, but we are not going to pretend an American contractor has been the most honest actor in this system. We know if they can hoard most of this surplus, it would translate into more profits on the balance sheet. That then translates into a higher stock price. That then translates into bigger bonuses and salaries for executives. Like most companies, this is about keeping expenses low, such as new employee salaries, benefits, etc., while finding ways to increase production with their current workforce, which always equals profits. I don't presume to know what's in the hearts and minds of corporate executives, but I do know are patterns and how to read historical trends. Based on what I've seen, 1/4 to 1/3 of all defense contracts in recent years have gone to just 5 major corporations: Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman, with Lockheed Martin receiving the lion's share, which equated to $75 billion in the fiscal year of 2020. This is well over 1.5 times the entire budget for the State Department and Agency for International Development for that year, which totaled $44 billion. Weapons makers have spent $2.5 billion on lobbying over the past 2 decades, employing on average over 700 lobbyists per year over the past 5 years. What does having that many lobbyists on the payroll get you? Let's take a look. Defense contractor Raytheon focused some of its lobbying efforts on monitoring the F-35 program status. Pratt & Whitney, which produces the F-135 engine that is integral to the propulsion system of F-35 models, is owned by Raytheon. After spending about $5.78 million on lobbying and almost $105,000 on federal political contributions in the first half of this year to members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committees, Raytheon was awarded a $306 million contract to build F-135 systems in October 2023. This is just one of many examples of major contracts being awarded to one of these companies. It is true that a lot of money is being spent in the United States, but that does not equate to the money trickling down to the people. I will let you make your own judgment, but I believe in following history. And based on the history of America, it is a huge if the majority of this money reaches the bank accounts of Americans, as the leaders of this country try so hard to suggest and romanticize. It appears the more money Congress approves, the more defense contractors make. So I pose this question to you. Is this really about democracy and freedom? Or is this about the freedom of the defense contractors to pursue as much money as possible? So it's your turn to tell me what you think. Do you think this money will benefit the American people? Do you think we should be giving more and more money to these foreign countries for their wars? Do you think financially the sky is the limit when it comes to protecting democracy around the world? I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Leave your comments below. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.